Adam Bierman, Breezin with Bierman, an exciting show. Lauren Dupree, who plays to win. The guy, I can't say enough for him. He brings in great guests, local legends. Our ratings are going up, 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 up. I don't know what to do to thank him, but blathering fandom for Lauren. Anyway, Chuck Treacy, skateboarder, musician, first African-American on Thrasher magazine. Then we have actors doing their craft. Serena Jain and Edward Liu, under the tutelage of the great Jody Wood, will do a brief acting scene. And then we might have Robert Downey Jr. might show up to promote something. And some Jody Wood trivia. That is Jody Wood, the actor and acting coach. So stay tuned and dig this Breezing with Bierman. We're up next with, I think it's Chuck Treacy. Hi, Adam Bierman again, Breezing with Bierman. We're here with Chuck Treacy. He's a session musician and professional skateboarder from Philadelphia, PA. In 1984, he became famous for being the first African-American skateboarder to be featured on the cover of Thrasher magazine. His musical credits include the 1980 skateboard punk band McRad, remixing songs for Amy Grant, very diverse. Sting, he played bass line on The River of Dreams with Billy Joel. He was on drums during a Pearl Jam concert. He's also touring with Urge Overkill, Bad Brains, and now with Activate. Again, Lauren Dupree is part, someone who, you're too big for the stage, but you're here. And I'm glad
I
you're
am,
here.
but I'm trying to bring in some ratings and have some fun. And I say time and time again, I believe in Adam. I wouldn't have people I wouldn't tell Chuck, I wouldn't put him at gunpoint the other night and say, you have to do your show if I didn't believe in it. So.
But you're running down from Philly and running back up. I feel like I'm being nice, and I feel like I have to support you. I want to go over and clean your toilet.
You should. You never have ice cream when I'm here.
I know. Whatever you are, I know. But hopefully you're all benefiting. But it's more about you.
Yes.
So
Chuck, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming. You also forgot to plug that Chuck is in my movie, Pennsylvania Hardcore.
Yes, I am.
Yes. I didn't see that in your face.
Yes, look at that.
I missed that.
It's all right. I wanted to make him look
I'm
bad.
more dark military mode.
That's right.
Okay.
I've been sharing that one and everything. So hit me.
I got you.
Already flustered. Hit me. Punch me. Anyway.
All right. So Chuck, welcome to the show. And you have got one. God, I wish I could kind of clone your life because you've been around skateboarding and music for so long.
Yeah.
So
the Forrest Gump of hardcore.
He's right. Yes. So what drew it to you? What came first, skating or punk and skating?
Well, skateboarding started at age 11.
Okay.
And I lived in Wilmington, Delaware, and I would go back and forth from Wilmington to Philly to kind of exercise music and have fun as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, a skateboard showed up with metal wheels and small trucks and a wood board, no grip tape, really primitive skateboarding. And I was living in a predominantly black neighborhood in Wilmington, and all the kids, my friends, were better than me. They could do handstands, roll down the hill, but they weren't attached to the lifestyle. So for some reason, I connected to the lifestyle. I don't know why. It took me longer to learn. So I would literally hold on to something and learn how to tic-tac. And then it just became kind of like exercising because I was really into baseball. So baseball is like a process of playing it. And skateboarding is the same thing. There's like different levels of mind control, that you use. So you don't do stuff like bash your knee open.
Legit.
That's your battle score. That's your medal.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Well, when you say that, the lifestyle though, if you could just give a brief cultural primer, how would you stereotype the lifestyle of a skateboarder? More iconoclast, kind of doing your own thing, not organized sports?
Because the lifestyle with aggression added to it would be like the attitude and kind of like what happened after the hippies or people that don't surf can't be just like, surfing is a little bit more mellow, you know what I mean? So it's more kind of like you're centered around the beach. And skating to me was like the transportation to that. So if you're living in a place like Wilmington, there's no beach unless you go to Dover or Rehoboth, you know what I mean? So you have to have a car, you got to get all the way there, you got to get into the lifestyle.
Right.
So for some reason, the inner city kids were more into like their gear, sneakers, what's happening in skateboarding now, which is like it's like more urban, and it's making more sense because it's easier to buy a skateboard and live the lifestyle on the street, which that wasn't street skating wasn't big back then because metal wheels on that stuff is horrible. But now someone can buy a longboard and be like, I'm a skateboarder, I can go 5, 10, 20 miles, you know what I mean? So back then it was just the terrain was smaller. Now the terrain is big because you have all these different skateboards you can buy and you have all this terrain you can ride. You can be a park skater, or you could just be a street skater, or you could just cruise down hills, or you can just kind of just goofing around with your friends, you know what I mean? But when we started this, I never knew that there was a scene in California. I just saw this thing called a skateboard, and I just stepped on it, and I connected with it.
And over the course of time, you ended up, you're a professional skateboarder. I mean,
Yes.
Thrasher magazine.
Yeah.
What? How does that even like kind of happen? Because is there really a field? Is that at the West Coast you had like the Z Boys setting it off, but like, did someone come to you and be like, you can make money out of this now? Like, we got magazines, and we just like, really? This was something I'm doing, screwing around? Like, how did that even happen? Was it obviously the early 80s, the late 70s?
Well, yeah, like after when I started at age 11, and by age 13, I had my first skateboard. So at that point, I was just kind of into like, well, skateboarding's fun. I'm in the suburbs of, Delaware. I'm having a good time because my father moved me from the city out into the burbs. So I got a chance to get into that. And then once skateboarding was huge, Tony Alva, it appeared in Charlie's Angels, all the different things, movies. And then all of a sudden skateboarding tanked. Vans went, filed for Chapter 11, and then all the skateboard parks closed because of, either real estate or insurance. I'm not trying to big up people who have all this power, but we were not lobbying as a unified group of people to say we need public skate parks. So all the skate parks were like, you had to pay.
Were you part of the people leading the way for FDR Park in
Yeah,
Philadelphia?
one of the main people was we actually a unit of us in Philly when I moved to Philadelphia from 1982. We went to City Hall to say, hey, we need a public skate park. And so I lived in West Philly, and they were like, hey, that ice skating rink that's there? And I was like, the lady, she had to lobby for 10 to 15 years to get that built. So if you're serious about your cause, and this is after I'd already been sponsored, and I already went out and kind of made a little bit of a name for myself.
You're more legitimate.
Yeah, a little more legit. And then I had to figure out, wow, I have to lobby for people's attention. And so we started lobbying in 1983, and then FDR got built in 94, 95. So that's a long quest of just like skating backyard ramps. And, I would have to drive all the way to North Brunswick, New Jersey to skate my friend's backyard ramp, Tom Groholski, so.
So it was, what was it, about 2005 or 2006 is when Philadelphia banned skating altogether?
Well, I think
they didn't want you in Love Park?
Yeah, they didn't want people in Love Park, and they were giving people tickets, and they were like, they were able to like kind of like take your board and trash your board. And so there was a lot of different things. And I kind of made a verbal kind of like push towards Nutter and called him Nutsack, you know what I mean? Because I thought that it was unrealistic that me as a kid I only have a high school education, but skateboarding was able to give me a sense of traveling and able to give me a sense of self, and being this musician, black dude that ends up in the suburbs from the city, all I had was my skateboard.
Right.
So if you take away someone's identity and they want to be an athlete, it's horrible. It's like, it's because then you have all this angst, and then what are kids going to go to if they can't skate what they want? They're going to start getting in trouble.
Yep.
And that's what happens every time.
Yeah.
That was the knock, though, I saw before. I know around town, in Hopewell and communities in Mercer County, people had this almost zero-sum feeling. Skateboarding, it's kind of long-haired kids smoking pot and the other wrong element.
Yeah.
But no one stopped to think maybe it's just a good outlet, just another way of doing something.
It's amazing, and not that everybody should skate, even if you only skated for 5 years. I mean, the lifestyle is like how athletic are you? When you want to be, and then you can meet a bunch of great people, because skaters at that point were just like kind of like artists. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's a big community.
Yeah, you do that. Oh, you're cool. Now everyone skateboards. It's like hard to figure out. Well, you got to hang with the street skaters, or you got to hang with these guys, or these guys wear these sneakers, or these are the skaters that wear $200 sneakers and collect. It's just out of control.
It's the same, but it's just like skating or the hardcore scene. You can kind of tell in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like 2 seconds. I see right through.
I see right through. Yeah.
And so, are you a skater?
I used to be. I still own my first edition Tony Hawk board.
Oh, sick.
Weighs a ton, but I just skated to get around. I was too scared to do what this guy did.
Right. But I consider that skating too, and not to cut you off, because I've had to rehab parts of my body, by learning how to stretch, at a later age in my 40s, because I never stretched as a young kid. And that's the thing, that skate parks, if they would have kept those skate parks around in the 70s, maybe we could have got a little bit more kind of insight of being athletic and proper, because a lot of us were just, I'm going to try that. I'm going to throw myself off like, an 8-foot ledge, and not knowing how to fall.
It could have evolved into something more, a little more scientific, in a good way.
Yeah, because stuntmen know how to fall.
Right.
Gymnasts know how to fall. Boxers know how to fall. karate people, and
Wrestling,
martial arts have been
yeah.
around, wrestling, everything.
Yeah.
It's all been around. And the thing about with me and skateboarding is what I said about yoga is just that I've realized that now when I get hurt, if I can't do my yoga poses, I don't step on my skateboard.
Gotcha. That's a
So
good.
it's
It's a good way to judge it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a
good way
way
to
better.
judge it.
Yeah, because it's
So the
like,
responsibility of taking care of your body has
Yeah.
to go in with this sport too,
Yeah.
and see this as a sport.
because
and have
everything
those
is a
places.
point, and this is the thought process of every point in your body. So if your elbow's hurt, you're leaning weird, or if your neck's weird, you're leaning. And
You're
then
not
you have
right
to have
at
your
all.
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you have 100+ pounds on a rolling vehicle.
So the skateboarding led you into music.
Music was first.
Okay, music was first.
Yeah.
So you had one huge journey here with that. You have your name and everything. So what came first? Was this straight up the punk hardcore scene?
Well, no, my father played tenor sax, and he was in the military, in the army. He was a PT instructor. So they had kind of an army bass band that they started there, and then they turned it into a top 40 band, which would rehearse in my living room in Wilmington, Delaware. So
you yelled at your dad to stop playing. That's the other way around.
Yeah, so my dad got me into it. I'm his shadow. I mean, he played bass, drums, guitar, knew what he wanted to do, but he never wanted to record. I think he went into the studio once, and he never wanted to be a star or be out there.
He just wanted to be himself, express himself. He's a real artist.
Yeah, and so when I picked up punk rock, that's when he was like, Chuck, you did all these cover gigs, all this rock and roll, blues, play out jazz, and now you want this really minimal music, this aggressive music. I don't understand it. And then when I started listening to reggae, he was like, what? Because most people are trained.
Fathom it, or find it accessible.
Yeah, because it's like how can you make the line from classical music to jazz or to blues into punk unless you have people like the Clash to go, oh, I now hear 30 years later what blues is in punk rock.
So rewinding, the first band was what that you were in?
The first band that I was in personally was a band called New Jersey's Finest with a bunch of friends of mine from up here.
Okay.
But my first band that I started and got my name in Philadelphia was McRad, which I still have now.
Which is still this is the new album?
Oh, well, this is the first two records. This is Dominant Force and Absence of Sanity. And the artwork here is done by Mark Ferris, is a guy from New Jersey. And inside here is almost every show that we've played in the early 80s. So there's stuff with HR when he first came to Philly with his own solo project, and there's stuff with the FUs. And so this is kind of like the background of what gave me my personality, which my parents did not understand at all. Because we were all about fanzines. Shepard Fairey's involved in all this because he had a fanzine,
And McRad still, you never went away. You've been playing for what, almost 30 years?
Yeah, 30 plus years. We just celebrated that. And for that 30-year celebration, I gave away PRS guitars for the whole year. So every show, I donated a guitar. These guitars are like this line is about $700. So
they're actually making money in that world. No, I know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I made a living. I'm able to support myself, and there's ups and downs, but yes.
So McRad, I'm trying to go through your brief history here. Mm-hmm. Did that lead you to what next was? What was it? Bad Brains? Did you?
Well, from McRad, I played in a bunch of local bands in Philly, Anthrophobia, a bunch Scram, a bunch of different people that would ask me to jam out, and then I got myself into the reggae scene. But the next big band that I started to work with was Underdog, because we did a show with them, McRad opening up for Underdog at CB's. And then Russ came up to me because he's a skater also, and we knew each other. And he was like, hey, at some point, I think we're going to need a guitar player. So, I got in the van, and then we recorded Vanishing Point and toured. And then from then on, I started playing in other bands, and Bad Brains came along, and Urge Overkill, Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, The Goats, Western from Philly. And then just different jazz people from Sun Ra, Jamaluddin Takuma, just all these different people around.
So the ride of the Bad Brains that was just nominated for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't think they got in this round. But you were part of how long? How long was your era with them? Because I know the lineup changed.
My time with them, professionally, was we did 6 months of touring, and we did about 3 months of rehearsal because we were a band together without a lead singer, and then we found Israel, who recorded Rise, which is on Epic Records. And then we went out and we did a bunch of tours with that. And then we got back together 13 years after that tour, which ended in '94, to do an MTV special. So they've randomly called me back in to help out. And then our last show that I did with Daryl was for Shepard Fairey's company. Bad Brains did a collaboration with Obey. And so Dave Grohl played guitar, Moby played guitar.
Wow, Moby, Dave Grohl.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
like bigger
yeah.
names.
Yeah. So then Daryl was on bass, and Pete from Scream was the singer, and then I played drums.
And
so, you know.
Dave Grohl was the drummer of Scream.
Yeah,
originally,
totally.
yeah.
So,
really.
Yeah,
but all of us between Philly, DC, New York, Boston, I mean, we all had to stay connected, you know what I mean? Because if you were either in the club scene, which is kind of like the house, techno, weird scene, or you were either in the punk scene. The rock scene was completely like what hip hop is today. That was rock and roll back then.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? So we had to kind of line up because
So you weren't hanging out with Styx and REO Speedwagon?
No, I mean, I would go to those shows and, you know, mix,
I go to
you know
those
what I
shows
mean?
too.
I went to 2
Yeah.
days ago. I went to see REO Speedwagon, Styx, and Dan Felder. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Top
Yeah.
that one, Chuck.
I know, that's crazy.
It
But
was like radio rock of my.
oh,
my
totally,
past.
yeah. Because I mean, early we're all MTV kids. I mean, you,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
had,
exactly,
you had, you know,
exactly.
they
Like
played
20
great.
minutes and
Yeah.
Banger's Ball.
Totally. It's
Yeah,
like-
I'm not saying that
That's
relevant,
Lucky
or you're not, but I just realized it's like nostalgia for the '80s crowd
Totally.
in a way,
Yeah.
reliving that. You know.
So how did I remember like someone sent me a link one time. I was like, "There you are with Pearl Jam."
Yeah.
That's a giant like. Talk about going like mainstream, but like, how did that happen?
Yeah, did you get cocaine on glass?
Cocaine on glass? No, I didn't
Silver.
I didn't really party through any of all of that stuff. Like even like, you know, getting into other bands because I started to, you know, I had my own personal problems with like asthma and different things. So I didn't have kind of the wind to just throw my body around because I wanted to skate all the time. Even if I was, you know, I'd get in from a gig at 2 a.m. and I'd go forward. So basically while I was on tour with Urge Overkill, we got to tour with, you know, open up for Pearl Jam. And I've noticed that all those dudes were skaters and snowboarders, you know,
Really?
because
Okay.
Urge, they were just kind of rock guys from Chicago. I mean, they just weren't athletic. You know, I mean, they're great guys. But when our first day into the Pearl Jam, you know, like a 5,000-seat arena, and they're just like cruising around on longboards and skateboards. And I'm like, holy shit, like, these guys are cool. They're
Just
a
like
big
regular
band.
people.
Yeah. So we were in Vegas, and they just, hey, we're going to do a Green River tribute. And David Abraziz, the drummer at that time, was like, hey, do you want to play, you know, 2 songs? And I'll play the other 2 songs. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And so they ended up, Pearl Jam would record their shows live, every one of them, to ADAT at that point before they started using digital stuff. And then they just decided to put it out as like a little 45 for all their fans. They had a fan club. So if you were in their fan club, you would get all the special releases. So that's how that kind of happened. Just a fluke of a situation. Me at the right time and not being a total dweeb.
Mhm.
And you were, I was rewind, so you were, that came from Urge Overkill.
Yeah, because I was playing bass with them on tour. They had just released Saturation, and they recorded the record in Philadelphia with the Butcher Brothers at Studio 4.
Was that the Girl You'll Be a Woman Soon?
That was a song that was on
Pulp Fiction, right?
it was a Pulp Fiction movie thing, and I
Yeah.
guess it was like it's stuff that Nash kind of wanted to do, but we had that happen on that tour because Nash and Chrissy Hind became friends, and so Chrissy had some connections in LA and got Nash and those guys into the big I forget what the movie was. It was a Wayne's World, the last one with the big
second one?
stretch.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
at the end, Nash gets out of the big stretch like Volkswagen,
Okay.
and then from there that led into the other situation.
We might go a little over. Can I ask some of the questions?
fine.
Okay,
Go
no
for it.
problem. Yeah.
Okay, these are some questions from Princeton Creed. I'm going to test your cognitive skills because you have to be cogent with this.
Oh my gosh.
I'll go for the poignant one once. This is from all he wanted to be identified as poor self-image. You know, being a skateboarder and a goth punk rocker, how do you deal with the fact when some people might look at you with just disapproval and disdain? How did you handle that?
I learned that from, I guess, kind of being black, but then also being black and being in a predominantly black neighborhood and having green eyes and kids calling me Warlock and not even like black people not even understanding me. And then I had to go and understand myself through my family, which I'm mixed. There's white blood in me. I have American Indian. There's all different things. So that was one thing, adjusting to just like regular Americans, because I didn't travel far as a youth. But once an American grabs something aggressive like punk rock or skateboarding, people don't understand it. So I
Yeah,
would purposely go to high
strange.
school. Yeah, I would purposely go to high school with like pins all over me, and they were like, they stopped calling me the N word. They stopped calling me everything because they're like, what's going on?
They're confused.
You know what I mean? Because at that point, Iggy Pop was like one of the biggest stars, and and he's so powerful. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, and everyone in America knew him. Gigi Allen wasn't even heard of at that time.
Yeah.
Iggy was like the guy that
still
was
going.
like, yeah, it's
He's still
amazing.
crazy and going.
So it's how I learned how to adjust, was just kind of take it in stride, and some things hurt, but then all of a sudden you get a Minor Threat record, and you're like, oh, these people are cool.
Mhm.
Like Ian's singing to us, all
Yep,
the
that's
freaks.
it.
You know what I mean? And there's other bands. You know, I had a big support of the New York crew, like guys from Murphy's Law. You know what I mean? All those people. You know, Agnostic Front. Those guys are really cool. They were like Philly and New York didn't get along that much within the punk rock scene because New York kids grew up a lot harder than Philly kids at that time. Because most of the kids in the Lower East Side, it wasn't built up. So those kids had to like they were living on the street. Harley, I mean, maybe Harley wasn't, but some of those guys, I mean, John Joseph and some of
Yeah.
those they
Especially
lived
John.
hard. So when I went to New York and I met those guys reminded me of the guys that would protect us in Philly. I don't want to call them thugs, but they were just like neighborhood dudes that you couldn't go off your block in Philly. You know, it was block to block when I grew up as a kid. You know what I mean?
Somewhat a mercenary world.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Well,
you know, that's what I
We're running
learned.
out, I'll let you take it home. We're running out of time. Do you want to?
Okay.
You want to do one more?
I gotta go one more. I'll
Okay,
let Chuck plug in.
Okay. How does your values translate to your music?
My values translate to my music probably through positive energy, even though I've made stupid mistakes. You know what I mean? But I felt that like my talent comes from energy because I don't know how to read music, and I just everything is audible. You know what I mean? It's like how if I hear it, if I see it, or if I see someone playing something. You know what I mean? So I kind of utilize it that way. You know what I mean? It's like it's a tool that I can use that it makes me write songs. It makes me take challenges. But if I don't exercise that tool, I can't take any challenges, which means like picking up the guitar, playing, or getting around different musicians to learn, or touring and learning, or over investing in the gear and not learning what it is to like not have money because you just spent $2,000 on the guitar that's only worth 5,000. No, excuse me, 2,000 that's only worth 500 when you go to trade it in. So those things have helped me, you know, because I just didn't want to be a regular musician. I just wanted to be kind of open to sound, and that's a cost. That's an investment. You know what I mean?
A populist. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for coming.
Okay, no problem.
My friend.
Thank
That
you for
is a
having
real
me.
scar if you're getting that.
Woo! God.
And before you go, is there anything you want to plug? The website, band, whatever?
Well, one thing I do want to plug is thank you for PRS Guitars. They've been supporting me. They gave me an ad on the back of Guitar Player magazine this year, which I'm really happy about, which promotes FDR Skate Park. This is a company that I'm working with called Aces and Eights, and this is the first skateboard shop in Jamaica called Skateboard Palace.
Oh, wow.
And so we did a collab with them and Sasha Jenkins of Mass Appeal at Afropunk Sunday and Don McCluskey in Bristol. So I mean, I don't want to promote my sites. I just want to be like, hey,
Okay.
Promote
Get it.
shamelessly.
no, just
Use
get
that
it.
energy, and
you know.
you're breaking into Jamaica.
This is your
now.
sign off.
Yeah, just get into
So,
music. You know what I mean?
Adam,
You
we'll have
know.
to get Chuck back here.
anytime you want.
Because he's got too much more to tell.
And I
Yeah.
think, and I don't think I could beat up the MMA fighter we had again.
Really?
Yeah, but
right.
brilliant. But I think I could maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
sure if I could take.
Now's
you.
the time to get him while he
I
has
know.
that bad knee.
Well, thank you, Chuck, and
You're welcome. Thank you.
we'll
for
be
having me.
right back.
Susan.
Robbie, God, it is you.
Yeah, it's me, in fact. Yep. It is.
Robbie, God.
That's nice. Just be careful. I'm hygienically challenged.
I can't believe it.
I guess I cleared the train again. Always feel bad about that. So, just you and me here. I know, it's been years and days and hours and minutes and months and moments, hasn't it? In fact. Hi.
Hi.
Where are you heading?
Home. Home.
Where's that?
It's 83rd and West End, yes.
Oh, I bet it's very nice.
It's very familiar.
Great. Familiar can be very comforting.
It can be. I guess I don't mean familiar in a comforting way.
Oh. Well, why not?
Well, because there was a husband there, and now there isn't. Not important anymore. But this is you. You're familiar in a comforting way.
Is that possible?
It is. I've thought about you a lot.
Same here. I mean, when I'm... My heads sometimes can be, impacted with people or the sound of them, but when they empty out, sometimes there's grace, rare moments, nostalgia will occur, or I'll be able to read and something will there, for instance, you'll be out of the blue after all these years, which is very merciful.
Where are you headed?
Funny you should ask. Our alma mater.
Oh, you teach?
No.
Because I still go up and attend readings, lectures, every now and then. Just recently, I went to hear Joan Didion read. So what do you how?
How am I? What have I been doing? I've been on disability for 12 or so years. Off and on, and off, so forth.
Oh, okay.
How about you?
I work for the Public Art Fund. I evaluate applications for things, which means I push around paper for a living, for a life in lieu of.
I would say it's a life devoted to the arts.
That would be kind of you to say, but you've always been so kind.
Public art. Those painted fiberglass cows a while back.
Yep, that was me. Us. Everybody liked those dumb cows but me.
And me. They had a nasty habit of commenting every time I walked past.
So, where are you in the city?
I've been, best to, homeless. Transient. In a variety of locations in and around the greater metropolitan area and beyond. But as luck would have it, one day around Christmas, last Christmas, I was riding the 7 train. I changed from the F to the 7 at 42nd, and what I thought was a desperate yet shrewd attempt on my part to give the slip to these two seeming secretary types who'd been looking over at me and whispering on what I thought at the time had to do with a large conspiracy. Anyway, to make a long story short, as the cliche goes, I jettisoned my original plan to go to the 40th Street Public Library to get some reading done and stay warm. They're pretty accommodating they are there, as long as you don't sleep, or at least snore, which is the problem, is I rarely sleep anywhere. I had escaped these two girls and was riding somewhere, and while I knew I was successful in temporarily giving them the slip, so to speak, I was also suddenly feeling, quite frankly, a little end of the line like. Because I knew I couldn't go on escaping. And as I said, it was Christmas, which only exacerbates the circumstances. But then I saw the sign glowing out at me as I rolled along on this train. Feeling depressed? Free treatment at the Columbia University Depression Evaluation Research Department. I actually laughed. Our alma mater, reaching out to me, calling my name as it were. trying to stay on track with the medication they're providing gratis, and it looks as if this studio out in Queens might be opening up. Someone at the clinic keeping his eye out for me. And here you suddenly are. My life is complete. Oh.
You probably never even realized how smitten I was with you. How exotic you were.
Exotic.
You weren't from Larchmont or the Upper East Side. You didn't go to Dalton.
No, definitely not, no.
You did it all on your own. And that's what so enthralled me about you. You'd already read everything without any guidance from anyone. And you carried it all in your head. You had the entire modern library in there. Freud and Jung, Vasari's Lives of the Painters, the Greeks, Chaucer, Dante, Milton, the American Renaissance, the moderns, the postmoderns. Everything. I just stared in wonder at that head of yours.
I had hair back then, too.
I remember I asked you, and you said you came from nothing. I remember thinking, how can someone who came from nothing know everything?
Just knowledge, you know? Just books. You know, it was actually a relief to discover that everything from Escalon is actually in Beckett. A to B. Birth was the death of him. So much more portable.
I knew you were a genius.
Susan, please.
The only genius I'd ever met. And that's why I fell so happily for you. Sorry.
What do you have there?
Oh, nothing, really.
Come on.
Oh, well, this bowl.
Oh, very pretty.
Trying for a Tuscan thing in my kitchen.
So, what else?
Well, this top. Color which I wasn't sure might make me look like I'm trying too hard to look, what's the word, young, and I decided it might not. Bottle of wine, read about, sounded good for later tonight. This spray, French lilac, and issue of Metropolitan Home.
Nice.
Yeah, it happened to me. I went to Columbia, the Whitney Museum Independent Studies program. Christ, I've become insipid.
What do you mean?
I mean, you carry around Beckett, and I have Metropolitan Home.
You have a home, I don't.
I have an apartment, and I do things and I buy things to fill up time, I guess, is what I mean.
Sounds like you're just a little lonely is all. Besides, you were the one who knew the entire history of art. I mean, you taught me more than a few things. I mean, it's one thing to have read Vasari, but can you imagine not knowing the difference between analytic and synthetic cubism?
You knew the difference.
What about your uncanny ability to distinguish between a Braque and a Picasso? I mean, who else could expound with exactly equal enthusiasm about a Duchamp ready-made urinal and a Bellini Madonna? And I certainly never looked at Eva Hesse the same way after I met you. And that color top is definitely not too young for you.
Would you like to come to my place for some of this wine that I bought?
Oh, gee, you know, Susan, I haven't touched alcohol in years.
Then just come over.
Well, have this appointment. I hate to disappoint.
I wondered and wondered what had happened to you since then.
Well, been a rough 14 years.
Is there a way I can reach you, if that's okay?
Well, I'm not really reachable. Kinda here and there, you know?
Well, can I give you my address and phone number?
Oh, okay, sure, great, yes. Right there, it never leaves me.
Okay. Please call me, will you? Or here, just take my cell. Just take
Oh, no,
You can
I
call
can't,
me
really.
anytime
No,
you want.
It's too much.
Call
No,
me if you're in
really,
trouble.
No, I can't. I'll lose it. It'll get stolen. Really, it's okay.
Well, here, at least.
Oh, Susan, no. I just.
Let me give.
No.
I have 5, 6, 7, 8. Christ, fuck! Damn it!
It's okay.
No, it's not okay. I'm an idiot. I had all this money today. I would have given you. Do you know how much I spent on $4 on a freaking cappuccino, and $5 on this magazine? I mean, do you know how much this stupid spray cost? $22 and $30 on this bottle of wine. I had all this money, and I could have given it all to you.
I don't want your money.
Well, what do I do?
Well, why don't you spray me? No, I'd like that, really.
Come to my place. Please. You could take a bath.
No, just give me a little spritz. Go on. Nice. Susan, you don't have to look so sad there.
I don't. Do you know how much you meant?
I think your stop is next.
Look, I'm just not prepared to leave you like this. I'm just not. So why don't you just come and stay at my place? I have the room.
Actually, I really like being by myself.
See, it's funny, but I don't. Do you know how far my life has gotten from me?
All too well.
For a second, I thought this was a second chance, maybe. Being handed to us. Me, you, if I may be so bold. A second chance for what, you might ask? 18 years is a long time, isn't it?
That was your stop.
Adam Bierman, Breezin with Bierman, a powerful scene from Jody Wood's improv class, Serena Jain, Edward Liu. What did we see here? Jody, take the lead. We have 5 minutes.
It's an acting class with a lot of improv involved in the process. But we just saw, what was the name of the title of this?
It's You Belong
You
to
Belong
Me
to Me by
Daniel Wrights.
Daniel Wrights.
Daniel Wrights, who, by the way, gave you the rights to do this.
Correct.
So he was very generous in that. So tell me, how do you feel about doing this in this setting as opposed to doing it on stage?
It was a unique and interesting experience.
Yeah?
I enjoyed it.
I think this may be the first thing I've ever done on camera, actually. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, kahunas for you, though. I mean, too. I mean, just from watching it one time, I was watching other people's faces in the control room. There seemed to be an impact, a visceral impact was being made of these kind of poignant people running to each other, you know.
Pat hasn't had that much sleep in months.
Yeah,
You know?
and stuff.
It's good.
I was always wondering what you learned about each other, what you learned about the process of trying to you know, drum out of you these kind of sad characters expressing a lot of emotion in a short period of time.
Tell
Well-
me, yeah, go ahead.
I think Jody taught us in the very beginning. I remember one of my first classes, this list of questions to follow when you're getting to know the character and understand who they are and where they come from, and basically, just everything about this person. You need to know it, you need to learn it, or you need to create it, and then that's how it all comes out. Just really get to know this person truthfully, and that really helped. That's what helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would also, I have to say, I learned a whole lot from doing this just because the play itself is so literate.
Yeah.
Right.
We learned a lot. We figured out who Vasari was, and I actually read some of that, and because so much of it needs that context. But yeah.
Which is one of the great things about acting is when you take on a role like this or several others where if you dig that deep and you really get into the world of these people, you will, as an actor, need to research that stuff and learn about things you normally wouldn't learn about. So, a well-crafted actor is pretty well schooled in different things, depending on what role they're playing. So you learn, you play a doctor, and you learn enough to be dangerous,
Right. A lot of literary references, you mentioned it in that too. But when you were doing this, you were trying to give, I'm just curious about the craft. What you were trying to give some tips, even though we had to throw you out of the studio, to try to get the, what were you trying to
I was
impart to
just,
them?
because again, first time doing this on camera,
It's hard.
there's a lot of stuff going around. It's not the exact setting that you were used to.
We didn't get a chance to rehearse or block.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just coming here for the first time.
Cold.
Where am I going to come in from? Angles, mics, and all that. I just was trying to tell them to get back to the basics of where were you emotionally in the moment before you came on the train, or in the moment that you were sitting there. What's going on in your life right then? It's not about what's about to happen. It's what's happening right now. What kind of world am I in while I'm on the subway platform? And it's that moment that leads you into the rest.
Did that help at all? Did you kind of forget about the cameras and us bustling about you and trying to get the sound
absolutely.
check and everything?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the mask goes on, and you are going to become the character for
It needs to stay
the
on.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And you'll see when you start doing films, you got to stop and do it again and bring it every time.
Right.
Right.
It can be very tiring.
Sure, my God. If you have a really emotional scene and by the end of the day you're not tired, you did something wrong.
Right. In our final 30 seconds, though, did you feel ever depressed in a good way, though? Did you feel like you became the character? Did you bring it home with you ever? Or did you channel it through other experiences of your own?
I mean, I definitely felt what this woman feels. Some of these emotions she feels are very common. Regret, loneliness, compassion. So all of these types of emotions she's feeling for him and about her life, I can relate. I think anyone can.
In final 20 seconds, Ed, give it to you.
I think because of the nature, playing somebody who's schizophrenic, I was kind of a little conscious even of not bringing it home, of really trying to separate myself from this character, because I did a good amount of research and trying to find out what it is, because I wanted it to be truthful. But yeah, I was always at least a little conscious of separating myself from the character. He's similar to me in a lot of ways, so it was something I wanted to be.
You smell better than him, though.
A little scary.
Generally,
woohoo!
usually.
Thank you, Ed, Serena, and Jody, of
Thank
course.
you.
Serene,
Thank you.
visceral,
Thank you.
very good job. It takes
Thank
a lot of kahunas, whatever the word is, to come on. And we'll be right back. Adam Bierman back with Breezin with Bierman, Jody Wood. And I don't know if I wanted this major star back, but he's back. I'd have to thank Jody Wood. That's how high on the horse I am. We have Robert Downey Jr. here.
Yeah.
Jody, what's Robert doing? What's happening? I don't even know.
He's just, preparing for the interview.
Just checking my Facebook like anybody else would,
You get a lot more hits than I do, and that makes me jealous.
Well,
friends?
I can't keep up with it all. I usually just have somebody else to do it. But I wanted to come on today to announce that I'm going to be connecting with my fans in a more intimate way, if you will. I'm going to be offering this promotional greetings. So if you remember my scene in Jericho Mountain, is it better to be feared or respected? I say, is it too much to ask for both? With that in mind, I'd like to humbly present the crown jewel of the Stark Industries Freedom Line. It's the first missile system to incorporate our proprietary repulsor technology. They say the best weapon is one you never have to fire. I respectfully disagree. I prefer the weapon you only have to fire once. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. Find an excuse to let one of these off the chain, and I personally guarantee you the bad guys won't even want to come out of their cave. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to take that and I'm going to substitute for weddings and so forth. So, for example, what's your wife's name?
Sally.
Sally. Is it better to be feared or respected? Sally says, is it too much to ask for both? With that in mind, I'd like to humbly present the crown jewel of the Sally's family line tree. She's the first Smith to incorporate their proprietary repulsor technology. They say the best woman is one you never have to marry. Jody respectfully disagrees. He prefers the woman you only have to marry once. That's the way Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. Find an excuse to put a ring on her finger, and I personally guarantee you the boyfriends won't even want to come out of their cave. So that will be available on my website.
Okay. Yeah.
What is your website?
RobertDowneyJr.com.
Awesome. What's the point of it?
Just to connect with my fans and give them an opportunity to, connect with me.
You're almost like someone playing Robert Downey Jr. doing a Downey Jr. skit. I don't really know what you were talking about. Maybe it was just me, but what was
No,
that?
see, that's a scene from my Jericho Mountain from Iron Man 1.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of a famous scene. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but a lot of people...
Oh, I see, it was dramatic, and so they love that, and they love that about you.
Yeah.
You think they get you in real life doing that or something?
Yeah, people like all kinds of dumb stuff. You could buy it for if you're the bachelor, if you're the best man or something. You wouldn't even necessarily need to
Is
buy
insulting your fans a good way to get business, though? I don't get. You said dumb stuff.
No, this is donated. All the proceeds go to Random Acts of Kindness, my favorite charity.
And what do they do?
They go around and they just randomly make people's day.
Kind of people.
Yeah. So
Random acts of kindness. You might want to try that sometime.
Well, not after this, because I don't know what's going on even right now. So
And
anyway,
this is your show.
anyway, I just wanted to let people know that that's going to be available.
That was really
shortly.
dramatic, though. I'll say that, though. And I'm not that. I didn't watch Iron Man that much, unfortunately. Though I mean, I loved you. I loved you in other things, and those Roger Hughes films.
I know
John
you
Hughes
did.
films.
So, but if
John
you,
Hughes.
Roger Hughes.
Yeah.
He was a football coach at Princeton.
anyway, while I'm here, do you have any other questions for me that you'd like to ask?
Yes. You gave me a card another day. You were in some business. That's a business. This is the business you're talking about earlier.
And all that stuff is done for charity.
Yes.
Of course, your acting work, you get paid millions.
Well, it's a charity for my retirement account.
Like you'll ever have to retire.
My wife, really, it's her charity.
Daniel Day-Lewis just announced his retirement from the acting industry. What do you think of that? Does anyone ever really retire?
Yeah, I think so. I'm thinking about retiring. Now after acting for so long, me and the wife are just kind of looking forward towards this transitionary period. But transitions are always so tough because you simultaneously feel like limited by something, but also encouraged by it. So I think no matter what you're doing, you reach that point where you want to try something different and something new, but you feel limited by what you've done, but you also feel encouraged by it. So I think that, if he wants to try something else, he should do that. And if he wants to act and go back to acting, then he should do that. Life is short and you should experience all kinds of things.
It's kind of vague. You're intellectually like vague and all over the place. But
well, I don't mean
makes
to
sense,
be so kind of rigid and professorial about it, but I just think that, nobody realizes, what the way I think, and you have to put that in context.
Well, no one can really understand how you think because you seem like to be on a different plane.
Yeah, a different plane. You see all the angles and you have to explain them, and at the same time you get lost in your own head thought.
No.
Sometimes, I think I get you, but I
No,
don't.
It's kind of frustrating sometimes,
Yes.
isn't it?
I don't mean to be so kind of professorial and rigid about it, but it's just kind of common sense, isn't it? Most of what I say.
But like with your wife at home with the kids, I mean, do you go off in 3 different explanations about how to feed the dog and why the dog might be fed? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I'm praising you. You have this mind, you know.
No, I mean at home it's like I come in the door and it's not like people are like applauding and go, oh wow,
No, it's your
Robert
home.
Downey Jr.'s got home. It's just like more like Susan's like, did you just leave the cat out? And I'm like, I don't know. Did I just leave the cat out? You're the one that's always
Do we
leaving the
have a
cat
cat?
out.
Do we have a cat? Exactly. Exactly.
Speaking of cats, get upstairs.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but does Robert Downey Jr. then come home, have lemonade, watch a ball game, or
Yeah,
Scrabble?
sure. I'm no different than
You a sports
anybody
fan?
else. I come home and sit around for half an hour and meditate, and then I practice my
everybody else
Tai
does,
Chi, and then I do my yoga. So I'm no different than anyone else.
Right, you're just like the regular Joe.
Yeah, what about Johnny Depp, though? This is what I found arrogant about Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp makes a lot of money, not his own money, and they ask him, do you care if this film makes it? And he goes, I don't care. I'm doing the art. No, isn't that kind of full of it? Isn't Johnny a little full of it?
Yes, I say so. People ask me, does it bother you if these big budget movies? And I always say, like, the more money you have riding on it, the more you need that extra special sauce. And I'm not saying that I'm that secret sauce, but I don't know when we're even close.
Isn't there a rule like actors aren't supposed to talk about other actors? Like,
Yeah, well,
I'm not
that's
gonna
why I
rip
didn't
at
really
Johnny
say anything
Depp.
too nasty about
Yeah,
Mr.
but aren't you
Depp.
beyond that anyway? You have your life, you have Iron Man, you have your wife, you've made a lot of money in the bank. You seem like the kind of guy who could go off to a desert island, kind of like Marlon Brando, look at feces, read poetry, and be happy. I mean, that's true, man, in a way?
Yeah, at this point in my life, at 52, it's really not about catch up or catching up. It's about making space for what essentially I've never had time for. Essentially on and off since I was like 17 or 18. I've been I've gotten a call sheet as many times in a row as mornings in a row as not, and like I said, it's not about catching up. It's more about just making space and time for what I haven't been able to before.
Mm-hmm. You're spacing out a little bit, but it's fine. Can we do some Jody Wood trivia? Because this man brought you here. And you have,
Sure.
And so,
Love this man.
I love this. He's done a lot for you. He brought you back here. And I'm
Well, I don't know if that's good or not. But
Okay, we should read more people, but we'll try it this way. Some of it's multiple choice. I have to speak fastly because we're aboard. Jody Wood, he's from this New York City borough. This is
Brooklyn.
no.
Oh, Staten
He
Island.
didn't
Yes.
even wait for the ADD. The ADD didn't wait for me. I'm ADD. It's going to give you multiple choice.
Oh, I
Fine.
thought this was like first answer.
You were just
first
being a DICK.
contestant.
Yeah,
That's
thank
all.
you. A dick too.
Yeah.
Okay. His favorite professional baseball team, is it the New York Giants, the New York
Yankees.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh my God, he's killing. How many heart attacks has Jody had? 0, 2, 1, or he's
Zero.
just acting?
Half.
0.
Half. I think a half.
Probably.
Half
He's,
a heart
he's
attack.
getting
He's so
close.
insightful.
He's getting close.
He
I
could
think.
be acting though. We don't know.
Keep this up. I'll have a heart attack right now.
He was in the famous movie in the early 90s, L.A. Vice, Mulholland Drive.
Law and Order.
That's a TV show.
That's a TV show. L.A. Confidential. Which one?
Oh. Law and
LA
Order.
No,
No, that's a TV
I
show.
swear to God, everything I've done in my career, everybody always talks about
Okay.
Law and Order.
If Jody was gay, and you came to our acting class once to witness, the pedestrians.
Yeah, he does.
He'd
Kind of
most
have an
likely want to
effeminate
sleep
side, I
with
would
what
say.
person in that acting class, including me? I think you know the answer.
Yeah, Ed.
I thought
I was just
me.
hearing.
Richard.
Me.
Yeah, in your dreams.
What kind of dumb game is this?
2 minutes. So
2 minutes.
Robert, he did pretty well. Okay, and finally, final question, and then you can talk about anything else you want to talk about. Jody is most embarrassed about this movie, Halloween H2O. H2O stands for water. Halloween 20 years from now, no one knows.
No one knows.
Ah, but good guess.
Halloween 20 years later.
Okay, so you know too.
I'm not embarrassed about that movie.
I thought you said you were. You only have 1 minute. What else do you want to say?
Well, I'd like to do another example of my.
You had to do that, right?
Let's talk about Halloween.
One question?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. You get 1 minute.
Is it better to be feared or respected? I say it's too much for both. With that in mind, I'd like to humbly present the crime driller. They say it's better to ask. I say no.
Very good.
Oh, what? I'm sorry. I missed
And you're not embarrassed. Should he be embarrassed? 30 seconds about Halloween H2O.
Yes.
Should anyone
Yes,
be
you
embarrassed
should
by the
He
project
just
they
knocked
do?
on you, and he just
That
like
was
a fellow
like,
actor.
even though I've never seen it.
A lot of people have it.
He died
if
first,
you're in
too.
it, you should be embarrassed.
A lot of young
Jamie Lee
up-and-coming
Curtis,
stars-
you know.
a lot of up-and-coming stars in that. Well, Robert, again, anytime coming back, you have a little, should I say, grassroots project that you're letting
Yeah,
lower lives
I'm
like
going
me in?
to write a play, and we're going to have our little acting group here in Princeton perform it, and on YouTube. So stay tuned for that too.
And I don't know if I'm being exploited.
Jody's gonna be directing.
Okay.
And
Maybe I should
you're
know.
gonna, we got
I'm
a
still
spot,
in number
and
two.
I got a spot. And it's gonna be starring Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to be exploited.
Don't
by
I get
you.
a part?
You have a part. Yeah, you're the acting coach.
I'm the acting coach.
You're the bad acting coach. You always give bad advice.
And we're going to clear up a lot of things after we take some Stelazine. And this has been Breezing with Bierman, and we'll see you next month.